This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial, and if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. I understood precisely why the $1,600 Sigma 14 f1.4 DGDN art in Leica L and Sony E-mount would be interesting to me. It would allow me to capture New York City's architecture in ways I couldn't with the narrower fields of view available to me in my current lens inventory, which bottoms out at 24 millimeters. But once the wildfire smoke from Canada cleared long enough for us to take it out on the streets of New York attached to my Leica SL2, and then only after we returned and I was able to review all of the so many misses and so few keepers from that day, that I realized just how wrong I'd been. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for 3 Blind Men and an Elephant. And today is a hands-on follow-up to our first video of what I've affectionately termed IL MOSTRO, Sigma's super-wide rectilinear 14 1.4 DGDN art. Having now had the opportunity to actually shoot with it in the real world for our specific use cases, the bottom line for me is this. A, straight up, the Sigma is a great lens, best of its kind I've ever had in hand. But B, in the end, the aha moment for me wasn't a function of its speed, image quality, or build quality, but instead its field of view and my ambition for it. This lens blew my mind. I wrestled with both the lens and my ambition at the point of capture, finding it easy to take advantage of the lens for, call them cooperative interiors, that is light, airy, spacious. Incredibly challenging for less cooperative interiors like dimly lit churches with a policy that prohibits lighting or tripods, and just about all of the exterior shots I'd hoped I could get with it. Put differently, Candidly, I struggled with the lens and my ambition for it in post, manipulating the crap out of images, I'm talking geometry mostly, only to be flummoxed by limitations I didn't know Lightroom had until I pushed it hard enough. I then pushed myself beyond the Rubicon into the generative AI of Photoshop's latest beta for the purpose of getting clean frames, that is, free of distracting foreground mostly, and was able to generate an impossible shot in the real world, if still unable to nail the geometry to my satisfaction. I am both excited and terrified by generative AI, but that's a subject unto itself, best left for another day. The most important point of all, however, is this. While those limitations, as limitations tend to do, fostered a creative burst at capture and in post, revealing to me new ways of seeing and expressing what I'd seen and felt, having nothing to do with photographic genres, astro, landscape, architecture, whatever. It was only when I began to work on the montage you just saw that I realized this. I saw in those images, in that particular sequence, emotional eddies, or to mix metaphors in pursuit of sharpening the point, emotional scars I didn't even know I had. And no, I'm not going to get into it. I'm fine. But yeah, you want to know about the lens anyway, so let's get into that. First, the good news. 1, this lens is incredibly sharp, especially in the center. No newsflash. 2, I didn't notice any chromatic aberration in the real world. A pleasant surprise. 3, no newsflash again. It is brick house well built. 4, I don't know of any other lens this wide, this fast, and wide open. It can be incredibly shallow. I did not expect that. 5, of course, stop down, depth of field is incredibly deep. And for me, the truly unexpected corollary of a lens this wide for street work is that it effectively pushes subjects away, giving me much more time to grab a shot. Again, for me, this is a big deal. Too often, I don't notice people or unfolding juxtapositions, paradoxes, until I'm practically walking past them, or they've walked past me. But the 14 is so wide that it gives me literally a couple of extra seconds to grab the shot. I need to think through where the optimal point for this balancing act between lead time and distortion can be found in focal length. 6, generative AI is literally scary good, though clearly with room for improvement. Put it all together and you get to this. 7, anyone who wants to harness the 14 1.4 for architectural photography, interiors in particular, even out on the street for an extreme perspective, and learns how to coax the most from it in post while not abusing those capabilities, will have a party. But, yet again, this is one niche il mostro. By the way, the only reasons I'm not commenting on the utility of this lens for astrophotography or traditional landscape are A, I personally have no interest in either genre and therefore didn't test for it, and B, there are plenty of other people on YouTube, many of whom you've probably already watched, who are and have. But in any case, this lens is big and heavy. It requires futzing because the front is so bulbous that if you need filters, you'll have to use cut-to-fit gels in the rear filter holder. Although, most of today's very latest cameras have shutter speeds high enough so that this won't be necessary. In between the good and the not so good, however, beyond the size, weight, and fussiness of a rear filter holder, is the price, $1,600. But for what it is, I think that price is more than fair. Claudia says it's a steal, and actually, I agree. Then again, there are a few things other than price worth mentioning. First, when I stopped down to f8, which, fair enough, is not why one would typically accept the size, weight, and price penalties for such a fast lens. Sharpness and chromatic aberration control improved from center out to frame's edge, and at extreme magnification were better, but only marginally better than the admittedly 14 degrees narrower, 2/3 of a stop slower, but 43% less expensive and 70% lighter Lumix 18mm f1.8s we also had with us. Which on the one hand tells you absolutely nothing about how the 14 1.4 compares to other alternatives, like Sigma's own $1,300 14 to 24 2.8 zoom in Leica L and Sony EMAT, or Sony's $2,900 12 to 24 2.8 G Master zoom, or $1,500 14 1.8 G Master Prime. On the other hand, that marginal difference in image quality with the Lumix 18 1.8 ought to reinforce the point that the 14 1.4 should be bought very specifically for its particular combination of field of view, speed, and image quality. Yet, if budget and or flexibility are at or near the top of your priorities list, you do have some darn good choices. Second, for those of you not familiar with a lens this wide, the edges are so distorted at close distances. This is a function of the focal length, not the quality of the engineering, that unless you embrace this signature optical property, you may find it sufficiently disconcerting or unappealing that you conclude it is simply too wide for you. Fair enough. Third, the lens is so surprisingly shallow wide open that if one wishes to use the lens at maximum aperture for one of its intended purposes, low light interior shots in, say, a church, you may find yourself in a bit of a conundrum. Again, you may find more distortion than you'd like at frame's edge. B, you may find image quality beyond distortion at frame's edge, once again, especially up close, not of the same caliber as the center. And C, you may conclude that 1, you need to frame differently, that is, crop to reduce these potential deficits. But not easy, since those few extra degrees of view are probably why you'd have a lens this wide in the first place. 2, you need to stop down the lens significantly to improve depth of field and edge performance. Problematic because then you'll be jacking up the ISO quite significantly, assuming you can't bring in your own lighting. Or 3, you need to move to focus stacking to address the depth of field challenge. But that's also problematic because many places you may want to shoot prohibit the use of a tripod, and in any case, you might still have edge issues. In other words, as good as it is, the inherent configuration of this lens may require you to, as it did for me, throttle back your ambition a bit, or go about satisfying it in a different way. I'll wrap it up this way. Contrary to my ambition for it, Sigma's 14 1.4 DGD and Art did not turn out to be the holy grail for urban landscape I had hoped it might be, even if it did come closer than anything I've tried before, by a lot. But in spite of my struggle with it in the field and in post, in spite of the relatively large number of misses compared to the relatively small number of hits I achieved with it, in spite of my own intellectual what-ifing, this lens inspired me and gave me images I intend to print and hang on my wall, unlike anything I've ever done before. In this context, the fact that it is an extraordinary engineering accomplishment borders on the mundane. Still, for those of us focusing upon a broad canvas at infinity with a need for speed, it is unmatched in my experience and to the best of my knowledge. But there's also this. If you're looking for a fundamentally different point of view outside of the obvious genres, maybe blow yourself out of a rut, the Sigma may be just what the doctor ordered. It just might be a mind-altering experience. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 6 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, join the conversation in the comment section below because this is an exceptional audience. If you'd like help with a portfolio review, gear selection, finding or honing your artistic voice, sign up for a one-on-one mentoring video called via Zoom at 3bmep.com/booking. Finally, please consider supporting our work by using the no-cost to you affiliate links down below, sending us coffee money via PayPal, or most especially, joining us on Patreon links down below as well. However you choose to support us, as always, we thank you for it.